Mohandas Pai, of course, needs no introduction. I'm not from Bangalore, he is. And I've been seeing how warmly people here in this room and in this platform have been looking forward to this session. So Mohan, welcome.
Thank you.
Always good to see you here. Mohandas Pai and I usually speak about politics. You know, he's been on so many of our programs and our shows. So today I also am looking forward, Mohan, to engage with you in a completely different territory. So let's kick off straight away. Here we are, Cypher 24. How do we look at deciphering the India story through the prism of greater usage of AI as we move forward? Your opening thoughts firstly, how do we look at that?
Bhupen, AI is an inflection point for humanity. Because if you look at the growth of civilization, India, China were the greatest countries till 1750 because we had a large skilled population. It was the age of animal power and human muscle, and we succeeded. Then came the Industrial Revolution with the machine age, where Europe became the dominant power because the steam engine and the use of motive power enhanced productivity multifold and created the factory model, created globalization and global trade. Now we are in the era of the digital revolution, where digitization has taken over the world. Out of 8 billion people, 5.5 billion people have a mobile phone, 5.5 billion people are on the internet, and the way we deal and act with each other is very different from maybe 10, 15 years ago. And human activity has changed. And the younger generation is a meta generation who move from virtual reality to reality at the same time. Whereas many of the people in power are the analog generation who saw the rise of the digital age. And maybe you and I are partly analog, partly digital, and most of them are digital here. Now we are entering the AI age. And what is the AI age? Machines with intelligence. What distinguishes a human being from other animals is that we had intelligence, we had great memory, we could do things, we could ideate, we could create, we could imagine in 3D and do many things that people never thought of, or maybe nature never thought we could do. Now the same kind of intelligence could come to machines to a substantial extent, where machines can mimic human activity and be intelligent enough, more than 80-90% of humanity. Now how can that happen? Okay? For that to happen, you must understand how our brain works. 82 billion neurons. The neurons have got synapses. Memory is stored in the brain. The eye sees an image. That image goes to the back of the retina, and that is compared with the image stored in memory, and there's instant recognition. And when we speak and when we talk, our neurons are connecting, the synapses are connecting together, pulling out data from a database inside, and then coming out with answers, and we can be problem solvers, we can understand. You understand? So now, that is the intelligence. Intelligence is drawing generic inferences from specific instances.
But tell me, look at the last 30 seconds of your proposition. Could it not be a scary proposition to Mohan? If all the thinking is going to be done by these great algorithms and great platforms, what will human beings like me do?
I think that's the question. We're still a little bit far away from that. But let me explain.
Is it a threat? My question is, is it a threat?
No, it is a threat because 50-60% of human activity is rule-based. We follow rules. When you do work in an office, you're following rules. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's what we do, right? And when you follow rules, that can be done by an AI algorithm much easily. And many of the work, for example, you're doing research. When you do research, what do? You develop a hypothesis, collect data to match the hypothesis, and for that you have to read research paper, analyze data, everything else. Now the entire reading that you do for your research can be done by an app, an algorithm. Algorithm can be trained to go into all the papers there, pick up the keywords and come out with its own interpretation, and it can be done in a jiffy. And second, using that, you develop a thesis and have a mathematical model. The mathematical calculations can be done by the AI, right? And then the AI can simulate multiple areas where you need to simulate to see whether the answer holds. And once you're able to do a simulation at a speed which is very, very high, which maybe a Ramanujam could do, could do that. He did it in his mind, in his head. And then you come out with a conclusion, and you test the conclusion for multiple case studies. Now, we used to do that, it used to take time. Because one, we can't work more than 8, 10, 12 hours a day. I'm sure they all work 14, 15 hours a day. We have to rest, we have to eat, we have to walk, we have to go to office. But this machine works 24 into 7. It doesn't require anything. It keeps working. It beats a human being any day for much of human activity. So are human beings going to lose jobs? Yes, they're going to lose jobs. How fast are they going to lose jobs? That is something that you have to see in the US because it's happening there at a very big instant. And then, is it going to change the way we work? Yes. Is it going to create new jobs for a few? And those new jobs will be very high-paying jobs, and the rest of the jobs will be low-paying jobs.
But you know, your statement is reminding me of what was stated once by a doyen from Haryana, and Haryana is an election-bound state. You know, Devilal used to say that computers are coming and your jobs are going. Now in 2024, AI is coming. Do we say jobs are going?
No. See,
how do we look at it?
See, we have to understand one thing. When computers first came, they increased human productivity. When human productivity increased, the work expanded, the economy expanded. Right? Now, when the economy expanded, there were multiple products and services that were given to people, and the population grew, so we entered an age of prosperity. Now, when you have AI, the quantum of time taken to do a particular work will shrink radically as it shrank when we went from the human activity, human muscle, to a machine. For example, when you went from a lathe to a CNC machine, you saw improvement in productivity, right? But at that time, you still had to build the houses, still had to build the roads, you still had to do many, many things that happened. And now you're coming to a stage in many parts of the economy, not in India yet, where within an organization, much of the work can be done by lesser people faster because the productive tools and the AI can reason out and do things at a very fast pace. That means the speed of change is accelerated. Now you look at a GPU chip. What does the GPU chip do? I just read that a chat GPT consumes for every query 10 times the energy consumed by a Google search. Okay, why is that? Because possibly much more potent, right? Now, when you look at that activity that is happening, the speed of change, the speed of response is what is the factor. And when the speed becomes ubiquitous, expands tremendously in society, that impact is being seen in multiple areas. For example, an equity analyst. An equity analyst in a banking firm has to do the grunt work. Before, there were spreadsheets. How did they do it? They wrote down everything else. They calculated, did everything. The spreadsheet came, everything came. But the model was still in the mind. Now, can you ask an AI to write a research report on a company? Well, the analyst used to do in about 10 hours. The AI can do it in maybe 2 hours. Will it be accurate? So the role of the person will shift to analyzing and seeing whether the conclusions are right rather than doing the grunt work. This becomes an input for you, so your productivity can go up 5x. Coding. Many simple piece of code is done by the AI. Possibly you can do much more complicated piece of code. Now your work is to create the software architecture and see how all these pieces of code tie up together and see whether it remains true to achieve whatever has to be done. That means increase your productivity 10-15% a year for maybe 3-4 years. Then after that, of course, the quantum of work done within the short period of time goes up manifold, and that catches up, and that means the human being is still required. But then what kind of human being is required? What kind of human being is required? The human being who can be a problem solver, who can read the code, understand it, and see where it applies, and see whether it can be implemented fast. Not the person who has to write the code. The ordinary soldiers' work can be done by grunt work. You go to war. You need soldiers on the ground. Can you have robots on the ground? Can you have humanoids on the ground? Yes. I was talking to a military person, and he said, the entire conventional warfare of having tanks and infantry and soldiers is questioned today because you can send a swarm of drones going into enemy's territory for 500, 600,000 kilometers and destroying everything else and finishing it off. Look at what Israel did to Hezbollah. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, that's different technology, not with AI. But I'm just saying the speed of response, the speed of activity, and the way to do it, and the intelligence required to create that kind of system, gather the data, analyze the data, and respond fast. Now, what do? When we talk, we gather data, analyze it instantly, and we respond fast.
You know, you've taken us in a very futuristic supposition. and the flight time from Bangalore to Delhi is 2.5 hours. So let me take you back to Delhi, Mohan. Since you're also one of those individuals, who has an ear in the political establishment, everything that you're saying seems, absolutely amazing, and it should be done. If it's, I'm sure in large parts it's being done.
It's happening.
It's happening. But when I speak to political stakeholders in Delhi, I hear a very different sense. Like when I raise this question of a computer versus AI, jobs versus jobs being taken away, for us to sit here and say that, jobs will be taken away or will lead to job creation of a certain kind, maybe is par for the course in Bengaluru, not necessarily in Delhi. Talk us through for this audience here, give us an idea of what you make out is the government approach to greater utilization of AI usage in our governance and in our day-to-day lives.
Bhupen, in China they have a saying that Beijing is far away, Delhi is far away. Now look at this audience. You won't find this kind of audience in any other city. Their understanding of technology, their use of technology, their thinking, their response is truly extraordinary because they breathe, live technology in this city.
I agree completely. I think you guys deserve a huge round of applause for yourself. And I say this as someone who comes from Delhi, and I was telling Mohan that the vibes here are completely different.
In this audience, respect is for the person who writes the best algorithm, not the person who has got the largest purse in the pocket. Am I right? So now it's a very different audience, so we shouldn't compare that with Delhi. Delhi operates very differently. But remember, Delhi's got to solve India's problem. Delhi's got Punjab, it's got Bengal with very nice things happening in that place. It's got Kashmir with that election. It's got Kerala in the south where there are a lot of arguments.
We have not managed to solve pollution in Delhi for the last 5 years.
Yeah,
and we're talking about AI platforms, we're talking about algorithms and whatnot.
The way to solve solutions is for the people to go away to possibly Bombay or somewhere else. Bangalore is a bit crowded right now, so we've got a traffic problem, so we've got to be careful. But I'm just saying, look, the idea that you can have somebody doing policy, somebody centralizing and getting work done is impossible in the age of AI. There's innovation happening every single minute, every single place, all the time, and people are creating. And the collective impact of that will be felt in places, in many areas, simultaneously, asynchronously, or otherwise. The cumulative impact of that will be felt over a period of time. But please remember, it takes a lot of time for things to percolate to the ground where we can use it in our day-to-day life. For example, today, people do business, communicate, people get education, everything else to the mobile. Okay. In the last 5 years, everything is shifted to the mobile, right? Now, people are watching TV less and less. They're watching social media, and they're liberated. Right? How did it happen? Did it happen now? It happened over the last 5 years. Because human habit doesn't change. I remember in 2002, 2004, there was the internet bubble. It is something called eyeballs. How many eyeballs are there in the portal and what can happen? And NASDAQ went to 5,000. Infi went up by $20 billion in value in 15 days, came down by 15 billion in 10 days. We never knew why it went up, why it came down. Because the euphoria, right? Now please understand the speed of change, but nothing happened then. What is supposed to happen in 2000, 2004 is happening now. Because human beings don't change easily. Well, technology can change, give you the tools. Human habits, human beings don't change. It takes time. The younger generation takes to change first because they're digital natives. Money is with the older generation. The control of the economy is the older generation. The younger generation has to grow up and become a dominant part of the economy. And then the generational shift happens. It's happening at a faster pace today. So it will take time. But what we have to see is the change at the edge.
Are we in the right direction? My question is whether it's budget making, policy making, a group of secretaries sitting together in a room like this.
I think Bangalore is in the right direction. It's going wherever it wants to go.
Unless we shift the national capital to Bengaluru.
Well, India will go in the direction where, Indians decide where they want to go. And, there are a lot of Indians deciding. So, look, what can government do? Government can create a policy framework which fosters innovation. Now, innovation requires 3 things: human capital, financial capital, physical capital. We need physical capital, connectivity, we need routes, we need a good architecture for hyper cloud. It's happening in the private sector. We need hyper cloud. And suddenly I find that India has got 1.3 megawatts, 1,300 megawatts of cloud power. I mean, we are third largest in the world after the United States, China, and India. And India is going up to 3,500 megawatts in the next 3 or 4 years. So we don't have the GPU chips except for Yota. but a lot of the GPU chips will come here. Cloud infrastructure is being built here. It's unbelievable change in 2 years. And who is doing it? The private sector. I don't think the government knows what is happening in that area, right? And then the algorithms are being driven here. Today I saw Bharti saying that we are going to use AI for spam. Right? So the things are happening in a big way. So they can do the conducive policy. Second, they can do is to make all of us more productive by investing in Bangalore, so we don't have to spend time on the road and write algorithm on the road. We actually get to have a much more comfortable existence and lower the stress in our lives. Our lives have become very stressed. So we need that government can do. And they can give more money to startups. Government of India and the state government spend 90 lakh crores a year. How much do they invest in innovation? 3,000, 4,000 crore peanuts. Why can't they invest 50,000 crores, create a fund all these AI startups, give them grants, and give them the ability to invest and to create it like ChatGPT. ChatGPT raised $20-30 billion in a jiffy.
But I'm sure you must have raised these points with the stakeholders.
Yeah, but doesn't go inside the hard disk.
There's nothing which is going in.
Because going inside the hard disk is as difficult as traveling from Bangalore to Delhi. No, look, I sympathize with them because see, we have a small problem, we have to solve our problem, right? But they're going to solve the problem for 1.4 billion people, they see it differently. But what I want is, 50,000, 1 lakh crore to be spent every year on innovation, on doing the next generation thing, on research, on R&D, investing in young people. Because, Bhupen, India is the third largest digital power in the world. Every innovation in America has got an Indian. I'll give you some data. Out of 6 million software people in America, 1 million are Indians. Out of 10 million working for American companies globally, 4 million are Indians. Out of 7 million in software in India, 5.7 in the export industry, they're using AI, they're not writing the algorithm yet. There are 3 million work for American companies. So out of 10 million, 4 million are Indians. 50% of global hiring in software, barring China, is in India. And they're all Indians. I mean, the tremendous brain power is going there. The impact of the brain power is with Apple, Google, and all this Meta and all of them writing. They're not seen here because we don't have the capital. If we had the capital, we can create another ChatGPT. Give us a couple of $1 billion and we'll create ChatGPT. We can do that. But we need the capital. We need the computing power and the huge capacities the US has for the cloud. And once you do that, Bangalore has got 350,000 chip designers, testers, embedded software people, the largest pool of collective chip design testing people in the world. Now this is here, but the impact of that company is seen in other American companies, right? So the brain power is here, but we need investment, we need a lot of things, and that if the government does, we are going to be there.
Tell me, if I was to ask you guys one simple question, you can raise your hand. Should Mohandas Pai be the Chief Minister of Karnataka? So I think the next chapter of Mohan's life, who knows, is still to play out. But let's move from information, governance, to the critical E, Mohan, which is the ethical dilemma. I hear a lot about ethical challenges before AI. Your thoughts on that? How do you deal with that?
AI is a struggle for power. The people who have AI and use AI are going to dominate the world. Now we have got two choices. Sit out and dash on them. I don't want to use the word. Or be part of the gang. We got to be part of the gang. We got to join them and see how we become part of the global elite to control the world, because you can't fight this battle. The battle is too much. We don't have the wherewithal to fight this battle. Right? Is AI an ethical problem? Yes, it's an ethical problem. Why is it an ethical problem? Because AI is about centralization of computing power, centralization of knowledge, centralization of control to control the human mind of 8 billion people on the planet. If you look at the American companies in many areas, search, Google is 97% of global search, they're digital monopolies. They're already controlling our mind. They're controlling the money that goes into investment. They're putting $250 billion into putting hyperscale cloud centers in the US. You understand? And they're now setting up nuclear power plants to feed the cloud center to give them that kind of computing power. Where are we? Please understand what is happening. The scale is very different. It is an ethical problem because AI can control the human mind by understanding what you are and sending you stimulation, messages, etc. AI can analyze who you are, what you are, and know what you're going to do, right? And AI can possibly be used to counter anything that happens in the world around you. Because the most important thing is look, we have a physical existence. We have a mental existence. We have a brain existence. We imagine. We see. What we see, is it reality or non-reality, or is it Maya or not Maya, is the ethical question and the philosophy question which Indians debated for thousands of years. Now, which is real? When you go to virtual reality and reality, which is real and which is alternate? You move between the two, and AI makes it happen. And the people who control the AI can control your human mind, so it's an ethical thing. Next is the AI algorithm is trained. It's largely trained by white males who are wokes. You give an idea and you search, you see the reply. It is what those white males who are wokes in California or anywhere else who are writing that want you to believe. So it is an ethical problem. It is not, inclusive in the sense. It is gender agnostic in a different way. So there's a problem.
So it enhances a sense of discrimination, you're saying, if it's all dominated by let's say, by the white West world.
Is dystopia in a very different way. It's dystopia in a very different way. And of course, it's not ethical. And the use of AI, where do you use the AI? You can use it for good. You can use it for doing whatever. You can use it in warfare. You can use it in warfare, right? Because for warfare, what do you need? You need computing on the edge. You need decision making on the edge, where you can send unmanned
vehicles,
autonomous
drones.
vehicles to go and create damage and see what is happening and decide. We already have people in Nevada who control the use of drones in Afghanistan. And right, it's already happening in a big way. Now it's happening in a multiple way. So the ethical dilemma is there. In fact, I've been purporting that in 1948, the United Nations brought about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights to decide what human rights have to be proposed and implemented for the welfare of humanity. Now we need a Universal Declaration of Digital Rights. Look at the dilemma. Who owns data? Where should individual data reside? Who protects the individuals and his data against the misuse? Who protects the individual and his data and his life against an AI? Because who controls the AI? And how should data move around the world? Now, everything is there in the US. In the US, all our data is there because any of the global portals are there. The NSA of the United States knows all the data. They can find out what you eat, what you do. All these US movies where they go to a center and see what is happening by putting the camera and seeing what is happening in London or Bangalore, everything, that's all true. It can happen. Right? So, it's already there. So, we have to solve the problem at a global scale, for which the global leaders are behind the curve. You saw in the US that the senators were joking with Zuckerberg when they called him the first time. Till Twitter shut out Trump, they didn't analyze the power of social media and the power of these companies. Only when the president of the United States was shut out of Twitter, they understood everybody else could be shut out. And somebody else is going to take a decision. And for a political leader, if you remove his access to people and his communication, he's going to hit you back. Because for him, it's a survival.
Yeah, but that's exactly the point I'm making. Whether it's Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk now, there is information which is all coming out in public domain now that these algorithms have played critical roles in politics across the world. And in India, look at what we are doing in India. In India, Rajnath Singh, Defense Minister, is still talking about make in India, kitna aapne gun bana diya, how many guns have been made. All notable features, all laudable features. But I'm saying, are we aware of the extent of threat which AI, algorithmic-based platforms are really posing before us today?
I think most of them are aware of it, are thinking about it. We just have to get those people from Delhi to come and have a dialogue here. They're coming down to have a dialogue, they're understanding it. But you see, look, there is worry in Delhi, there's worry everywhere about the impact, people are talking, but it has to be done in a very dispassionate technical matter, not by the leftists and others who create imaginary victimhood narratives. It has to be done in a manner where we understand the context, understand what could happen, understand what to do, and then see how do you build in things to make sure that people are protected. That's very important to us. People should be protected. The misuse is brought down, and there's redressal for people. For example, if Google shuts you off from search, from the internet, what happens? You don't exist. We exist on the internet.
Yep.
We're a piece of data. You're shut off. Your ID is shut off. And you get a new ID, is shut off. They find out what you are, you shut you off. You're dead. How do you interact? You please understand that.
Well, I can tell you that just to add to what you're saying, Mohan, in Delhi, in the Delhi High Court, there is a petition which has been filed by a bunch of activists complaining that YouTube is restricting the reach
Yes.
of certain platforms which echo a certain political
yes,
viewpoint.
They're doing it. They're doing it.
Is that not
They're
interference
censoring.
with politics and
That
democracy?
is censoring, and that's bad for democracy. It's
How do you
censoring.
deal with it then?
Huh?
How do you deal with a situation like
Well,
that?
you must remove the power of censoring from them, like you do it for the movie industry and other industry, and bring in some regulatory measures where you can't censor anybody. But then comes, how do you control child porn? How do you control fake narratives? How do you control all that? Just now we had Hillary Clinton said, we need to make sure that the Americans who do fake narrative are put in jail. But then who decides what is a fake narrative? Who decides that? You're giving power to somebody. So we got to debate these issues. We got to think through the issues, come out with certain norms, and possibly crowdsource solutions. I'm sure if you ask all these people, pose the problem to them, ask for solutions, you'll get hundreds of solutions, and some of them will be fantastic solutions which could be implemented. See, the thing is, first, you must understand the problem. Second, you must discuss the problem and ideate. And third, you must come out with solutions. Then fourth, you must see the feasibility of the solution and start the implementation. But educating people itself about all these challenges is a big thing. If that happens, we solve 50% of the problem.
Well, that was my next question to you. We've looked at AI through the prism of governance, AI through the prism of national security. What about the business that you're very passionate of, education itself? From primary level to senior level to college level. Talk us through how does usage of AI, how does it bring about the right change?
You know, Bhupen, Pranav made a very interesting presentation recently, and I got the slide in my presentation called India, a Startup Nation. Imagine a young child having 10, 15 bots which talk to the child, have a conversation, and educate the child. How do you educate a child? We talk. A child grows up, converse, we talk, the child asks questions, we give the answer, the child does mathematics, we do mentoring, we do everything else, but we are not able to spend time with the child, 5-6 hours a day, when the child goes to a class where there's one teacher with 20 children, blah, blah, blah. Individual attention is not there. Suppose the child has individual bots which speaks like a human being, talks like a human being, the child will react to that as if it is a human being. The child will not distinguish that the real human being or that is not a human being. And suppose that is available for a child to teach, to converse, to play, to do many things, we can improve the quality of education. But will that happen? Yes, it's a possibility. In college, sometimes I get nightmares even now that next day morning I got a mathematics exam and I'm not prepared. You wake up at 3 o'clock and you say, oh my God, what happened? Because you see, I did commerce. In my CA, I had to do mathematics and operational research. We had to get 40% marks and 50 in a group. I got about 33 in statistics, in operational research and statistics. And in mathematics, out of 50, I got 8. I got 41. I got a rank in India. But that is because there's something called sine, cos, tan, which all these people do. I didn't study it in school, so it was very alien to me. And it is fearsome. Now, suppose the child is there and he's got an exam tomorrow for maths, and the child wakes up at 1 o'clock and she will say, what do I do? You can go to a chatbot. The chatbot will teach the child how to do the problem and give it comfort and everything else. Now, can it be done? It can be done. Now, that is the great hope to level education, because when you have large number of young people in college and you have large number of institutions, there's no way the quality of education is going to be similar. Of course, the child has to have interest. Young people have to have interest. They have to have inclination. They have to have that. That is a given. If that is a given, the input they get, the mentoring they get, the exchange they get can be evened out by chatbot. It can possibly improve the output by 30, 40, 50%. But the important thing is to teach the child or the young person how to think and how to do problem solving, for which a human being is necessarily required. Because see, we are emotional creatures. We are not an algorithm. See, we are emotional creatures. We are moved by emotion. And emotion is nothing but chemical reactions happening in our mind and our body. Right? Why that happens, we got to find out. People are finding out. Maybe the app will solve that. But please understand, it will be an enhancement of performance for education.
Okay. My point was, look at the world, and US is now election bound. We've seen what's happened in China. India, through the prism of US and China, usage of technology, we have this big population, you have a trained manpower here. Where do you think the India story headed when you look at it in the prism of US and China?
There are only 3 great digital powers in the world: the United States, China, and India. China, they shut shop because of the Chinese firewall. The Chinese don't want outsiders to get in and insiders to get out. They're the middle kingdom between heaven and earth. Everybody outside is a barbarian. That's the old Chinese philosophy. And they shut themselves out, except for TikTok and some apps that are gone outside and the data goes there. So there's only US and India. And US and India has joined at the hips. While the political leaders may have differences because both want to control the world maybe, but in technology, Bangalore is closer to SFO than Delhi. You go to Delhi, we speak to people as an alien language. We go to SFO in the valley, we meet familiar people, we talk the same language, we understand, we are familiar, right? We eat the same food there. We get the dosa there, it only costs $10, $12.
I now know what being an outsider feels like.
So yeah.
I'm feeling it right
So
now.
you see, the reason is both of us are connected to the hip. The companies are there, the R&D centers are there, we work together, and that ecosystem is fantastic. So I think United States and India are going to be the force multiplier. We're already there. Now, next 5 years is going to go up 10x what it has been the last 20 years. Because the computing power and the speed of computing has shifted. And the ability to do things which could not be done earlier are there. For example, drug discovery. Typically, drug discovery is a 10 to 12-year, $1 billion work. But now you can possibly do it in 250 million because you can simulate the drug. You can simulate the drug using AI. First of all, you can do research to find out the chemical composition of the drug because it's a set of molecules, right? And then you can simulate the impact on the human body by creating a human avatar with actual how the human being will react. And I think we've got technology now where each one of us can have an avatar in the virtual world where the avatar will live a life replicating whatever happens in our body so that we can test out many things there without testing out on yourself. Right? It could happen there, right? And that could change that. And that will happen with both India. Just now I met somebody who says that Roche has got a center in Pune. They took out a startup somewhere. I hope the gentleman is here. I'm sure they're going to use AI, they're going to simulate, they're going to do things. So the US and India are the big digital powers together. Europe is a digital colony of the United States.
It's a digital colony. Okay.
Yeah, it's a digital colony of the United States. Japan is, Japan is shrinking in population. And they got a problem because they're very good at a particular stage. In the digital world, is still a challenge. And I think, it's fantastic here.
Okay. On that note, thank you so much, Mr. Pai.
Thank you very much.
joining us
Greatly
here.
enjoyed
Huge round
being
of
with you all.
applause
Thank
for
you.
him.